Oops. Nope, not that. Hello, hello.
How you doing, Joy? Good evening.
Round two. Oh God, let me not push too many buttons here. All right, let's get this done right this time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gardening Plus with Joy and Healy. I am Joy.
And I'm Healy.
We are two coast to coast gardeners sharing our beyond basic experiences, intermediate knowledge, and advanced antics. Watch the scrolling messages for important information. Feel free to exchange ideas, tips, and tricks with each other in the chat. Type in all caps for comments and questions that you want us to acknowledge. And please like, hype, subscribe, and share. And if you could play us in the background, use one of our playlists. We really would appreciate those watch hours before the rollout of YouTube's new guidelines. Enjoy the show. All right. I am Joy. I am in New York State, Zone 6. I utilize all manners of gardening styles, in-ground, raised beds, containers, indoor growing. I have a flock of 14 chickens. 2 of those are roosters. And what was I saying? The weather, right? The weather is typically mild, but this particular season, and we were warned. I heard the word El Nino mentioned one too many times, though I shouldn't be surprised. So it's been hotter with more up spike in heat than usual. It's been rainier, even though August is typically our rainy season. But it just feels like rainier than typical. But I don't think we've filled up our reservoirs quite yet. So I guess it's welcome in that sense. And also it's keeping me from having to water the garden. And then I typically have about 150 days of sowing or growing, time frame, but I play it safe and go with like 120. How about you, Healy?
Well, I am the complete diagonal opposite of you, Joy. I'm in Southern California and I'm in zone 10B/11A, and it really feels like 11B. So temperatures have still remained above average since the last live stream we did 2 weeks ago. But a heat wave in March to me was an indicator that it was going to be a warmer than a normal summer, and it has been because we've had heat waves in June, July, this month also in August. Overall, though, we have mild winters in my area. We have warm summers, but we have very limited rain. So you either have to have an irrigation system going or a very on point hand watering. I do hand water, is not on point. I'm still working on it. But all of that still means year round gardening. I really do have 365 days a year of a gardening season. Of course, I have to be strategic with it, but I can and I do sow, garden, plant, transplant, all of that 365 days a year. I have been growing in this area for about 9 years. I have a small suburban backyard. I grow in buckets, nursery pots, vertical planters, metal raised beds, and grow bags. And besides the 3 fruit trees that I have in the ground, everything is above ground in my backyard shenanigans garden.
All right. Thank you for that. Now let's say hi to some of the chatters. We have Mike Chaotic Gardening. Hi, Mike. He is it Chile? There we go. Sorry, working 9 to 5. And he'll be listening in the bushes. And we have Shawnee Groves. She is very excited about our veganism topic. Awesome. All right. Now, Healy's segment. News you
Yeah.
can use.
So
Is next.
we have some news that you can use, just some little information that pertains to gardening, some aspect of gardening. So if you were not aware, as I was not, but I am now, August is National Peach Month. I do have an August Pride peach tree. It has 1,000 leaves and it has 0 peaches. I did have 2 peaches earlier in like June, July timeframe, but like they didn't make it. So yeah, National Peach Month. So if
All
you have
right.
a tree, or I would say even any kind of peach related or peach variety like stone fruit, happy National Peach Month. This past Saturday, August the 8th. Now I have heard about this. I've never done it, but so August 8th, this past Saturday, was Sneak Some Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Day. And I have really a day. Let us know in the chat if that's really a thing for you. And the deal behind it is that when you grow your zucchini, your squash plant, you end up with so many of them, you just don't know what to do. This is after you have, you know, fried them, baked them, made all kind of dishes with them. You froze some, you dehydrated some, did whatever. You still have so many left. So last Saturday, you were supposed to sneak some onto your neighbor's porch. So that was last Saturday. This Saturday coming up, August 15th, is National Honeybee Day. So
Mm.
you are a beekeeper, a bee farmer, or if you want to support your local bee person at the farmers market or in your community, check them out this weekend. Saturday is National Honeybee Day. Now, I have a couple of pictures that I want to show you that go with the next two things that I want to talk about. Now, for the last two live streams, I've talked about the cyclospora outbreak. And this is just an update. I know the picture is kind of small, but this is an update. And we do have links to some of the references for the information that we use. It'll be in the description as soon as YouTube lets us, add that. But the CDC reports that the cyclospora outbreak, which started on June the 14th, 2026, is now in 17 states since Maine and Massachusetts were added to the previous list of states affected. There have been nearly 9,500 illnesses, 400 hospitalizations, and at least 2 deaths reported. Now, these numbers are likely less than the actual illness and hospitalization reports, hopefully not the death reports, because everything is not reported. But
Mhm.
this information is straight from the CDC and it was updated today. And then, just if you can see, I have a list of the 17 states. Just if you want to check to see if you are in one of these states or if you know someone in one of these states, just be careful. And the CDC website did state that, this kind of started from that iceberg lettuce outbreak from the Tyson farms in Mexico, and then it just spread out from there. Now it not only affects lettuce, but some other fresh produce also. So just be careful with that, y'all. The cyclospora is still a thing, is still out there and it's still spreading. So that's the update for that. So now the next thing, the next picture that I have, and this is just something I looked up. So this is gardening tricks that make your plants grow faster and fuller. There's actually 12 listed in the article, but here are 5 quick ones. So the first one, they say add compost to your garden soil each season. Now, most people, they add compost in the spring and that's it. Or some people will add in the spring and in the fall. But this article is saying that we should add compost to the garden soil each season to constantly replenish the nutrients and everything that plants need to grow. The second thing is to water more deeply and less frequently to encourage deep and stronger roots. Number 3 is to fertilize strategically, not just generously. So know what nutrients your plants need and when they need them. So you know how if you're not fertilizing organically, sometimes we use synthetic fertilizers in our garden. I do sometimes, but those sometimes have higher numbers like
Mhm.
triple 10, triple 16, triple 20,
Mhm.
0046. It's not just about putting more. Like if the package says put 1 to 2 teaspoons and you put a cup, like sometimes more is not better. So you want to be strategic, and not just putting more. And if you pile on nitrogen but your plants need phosphorus and potassium, dumping the extra nitrogen is not going to help your plants.
Right.
So number 4 is test and adjust your soil pH based on the plants you grow. For instance, we all know this blueberries prefer acidic soil. Well, sometimes your plants might not do as well, and you like, okay, but I'm watering right. Is the right sun exposure? I didn't drown it with fertilizer. I put just the right fertilizer. I planted at the right time of the year. What's going on? Check your soil pH, because certain plants do prefer more acidic, neutral, or less acidic soil pH. So check that. And then the last thing is mulch. So mulch to retain moisture, suppress weeds, and protect roots from temperature fluctuations. I told y'all my story. Y'all, I bought that straw mulch and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. But in some of the places where I have the mulch, thank goodness that I'm growing mostly in containers. The grass has grown from the seeds in the mulch, and I have more grass than mulch, y'all. But mulch does help my containers, especially to retain moisture, because sometimes a container will dry out more quickly, especially my grow bags too. So it does help retain moisture, suppress the weeds. Like I don't have weeds, but I have grass from the seeds that are in the mulch. And then, temperature fluctuations, especially with these heat waves that we've been having, temperatures will be mild. And then the next 3 days in a row is shooting up 10, 15, 20 degrees above normal. Then the heat wave is over with and you back down 10, 15 degrees into normal temperatures. That fluctuation of that soil getting hot and cooling off and getting hot,
Mhm.
especially if you are transplanting or you have a plant with tender roots, it can kill your plant. So mulch is good for that. And with that, Joy, that is news that you can use.
Very nice. Thank you for all of that. Very helpful information. All right. Let's see. Our topic of discussion for today is veganism. Specifically, the question is veganism sustainable? Now, before we get to that, let us go to what we have been up to, in the past 2 weeks since our last live stream. I have largely neglected the garden. Um, I've done like a few trips here and there, like midweek stuff. And so, yeah, I've hardly had any time to harvest, and weeding is forget it for that and other reasons. Um, it's so hot and humid.
Mm.
So you have a very small window early in the morning, which I'm not getting up that early, and then limited time in the afternoon. And that's when the bugs are out. So, I gotta just like in and out for me.
Mhm.
I did, as you had mentioned in your checklist there, I did feed specifically the melon containers because they're in either plastic containers or grow bags. And I know melons are heavy feeders, and it's been raining so
Mhm.
much that I'm sure a lot of whatever's been in there has been used up. So I did do like a fish emulsion with those. Um, what else? I I cleaned up some plants that were just past their prime. I still have a few more there that I'm just sitting on for some reason, just to keep the soil covered.
Yeah.
And and
But
just
that's
this
almost like
morning,
a mulch. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, exactly. And just this morning, because YouTube makes and being on this, having this chat motivates me. So this morning, I took a few minutes and just weeded a little bit of space and planted a
mhm.
little bit of seeds. So I did get something accomplished today.
Yeah.
All right, your turn. What have you been up to?
So since the last live stream, y'all, and this kind of it's a little repeat, but surviving the heat and the fig beetles, y'all, they still every morning. It is every morning I see them and they still fly and hit the window. It's almost like they knocking. They hit the window 2 or 3 times just so I can know that they are still there. Yes, I see you. I watch for you. Y'all, this morning I got up early this morning and I recorded a YouTube video just so you can see how the garden looks, because I haven't shot a garden video in a while. Make sure you check out that video, but I had to get up early to beat the beetles, and I did. Um, that leads me into neglecting my garden, y'all. I just have not been doing like I'm supposed to do. And you will see the results of me not doing what I'm supposed to do in that video. So make sure you check it out. I have been harvesting sun gold cherry tomatoes, but something has been eating them. And y'all, I'm gonna tell you this. So it wasn't until I literally watched the playback of my video on my television, and I'm saying something is eating the cherry tomatoes. What is it that's eating the cherry tomatoes? They got a big hornworm
Oh no!
on one of the leaves.
Ah!
Thank goodness that I did not see it, y'all, because that'd have been the end of the video. Now we know the tomato hornworms, normally we see them eat the leaves and they eat the leaves and they eat the leaves. No, y'all, they will eat the tomatoes. They will eat them. And he did. But I could not believe I did that whole video and I was in that area for a while. I did not see that tomato hornworm. But y'all know they will be right here in your face and you don't see them. So yeah. So I've been harvesting the sun gold cherry tomatoes, the Japanese cucumbers, and several varieties of sweet, hot, and bell peppers. And then for the next 2 weeks, y'all, I'm pulling everything up. I explained it more in the video, but I'm going to be pulling up my garden. I want to refresh the soil, fertilize it, refresh it, everything. And I'm going to let it rest until November. So if something is actively producing, not just growing, but actively producing fruits, vegetables, whatever, I'll let those hang, maybe for another 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'm gonna pull it up. But other than that, slowly over the next several weeks, I'm gonna be pulling everything up, refreshing the soil, fertilizing it, and letting it rest until November. And then I'll be planning what I'm gonna sow for a November/winter garden.
All right. Yeah, that's one thing that's annoying me so much is I can't turn my compost, let alone use it, because it's just so wet and there's no end. There's no relief, for me to get to that. So it's just like, I really want to top up these beds, but I gotta keep waiting. All right. And now
I'll take some of your rain though. If you want to, because we had like zero. I think it drizzled. I did a video when I went to Dollar Tree trying to catch the penny seeds. But I totally missed it. I don't know how I missed that, y'all, but I did. Yeah, but it drizzled for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Misty drizzle at that.
Yeah, this is not an area with the Dollar Trees or anything that gives those seeds. They don't even have seeds, so I never would have gotten any. Bummer. Let's see. We are up to which you already mentioned, yours. What to direct sow, transplant, harvest this month segment. So since you did yours, I will finish it off. I direct sowed recently the carrots. So I did 2 beds and then a little 5-gallon container of just sprinkled it in, let it go. I did cover it with a mesh because it's under a maple tree, which has those flying things that like to plant themselves everywhere. So I did do that much for it. I haven't had to water because luckily Mother Earth is doing that for me. This morning, or no, let's go back. I also did, I forgot to bring it. It's water spinach, or kangkong in my language and other languges.
Yeah. And I saw that in your video. Yeah.
And so it's a fast growing leafy green. And so I'm excited. I already saw sprouts come up. So I think it will be true as long as we don't have any weird catastrophic weather anomaly. I should be able to enjoy it before the season's out. And then this morning, along with my little mini weeding, and in lieu with, I planted leeks, direct seeded leeks, and rutabaga. So I took 2 grow bags and just seeded those, watered them in, and we'll see what I get with those. As far as starting, indoors, that's over for me. There's no more, there's no more reason for me to do that unless I were to be doing something specifically indoors. But this year is going to be different because I have a lot of outdoor plants that I need to bring in, like trees mainly and shrubs.
Yeah.
So my grow light is going to be occupied unless I get another grow light. We'll see how I feel in a couple of months. A shopping spree may be in order.
Wait for the sales.
I know. And I'm talking about the mega grow light, not just the bar lights that are for garage spaces. I need to keep these figs and persimmons alive through the winter, so that's what I'm dedicating that light to. And then the last transplanting I need to do is the lettuce, because currently just like scattered sowed into a container, but now there's a whole bunch of them, and they're never going to grow big if they're continued to be cramped. So I need to prick them out, and I'm going to use the green stalk to get them going, keep them going. So that should be great for this week coming. And then as far as harvest, my previous video showed I finally pulled the onions, so I've been enjoying that. A few tomatoes, what few is left here and there. The peppers are coming in. I'm never sure like when to harvest peppers. Like I know I like to wait till they're red, but they don't all come together, all at once. It's like, this is red, this is still yellow. It's like, do I wait till the other one's red too? So I haven't harvested them as well as I should have. But I have used the Jimmy Nardello, which is a sweet pepper. So I have harvested that and cooked with it, and that's been great. There were a couple of eggplants, the fingerlings that came up. There's a couple of the fatter ones coming in now, so I'm excited for those. The corn is ready, and I mentioned this last week, and I never got to it, so the corn might be over already. So I'm going to have to harvest that soon. I got another round of potatoes that are dying off and can be harvested. And ground cherry, which I picked. I picked. There were a few on the tree, the bush, and I ate those. And then there were a couple on the ground that I picked, and I'm like, oh, I can use this as show and tell. So for anybody who's not familiar with a ground cherry, it's not going to focus. Anyway, it's got a papery husk when it's dry. ASMR. And then you peel back the papery part and you eat this, looks like a tomato fruit. And it's sweet and tangy and delicious for some people. And I picked up 2 of those. And then I put them, next to the computer. And then like 20 minutes before the live stream, I look down and I see ants everywhere. And I'm like, crap. I brought in ants. I brought in ants with this stinking ground cherry that was on the floor, which I should have known better to look at it. But that's typically when it's ready, is when it's fallen to the floor. But, if you just shake the plant, if it's ready, it'll fall easily. And then those are ready. You don't have to wait that long because the ants will get them. So there's my little treat for every day. I go in there, I get 3, 4, 5 little ground cherries to snack on. Yum. And so I have usually the Aunt Molly's ground cherry that I plant. Yeah. And then this year I bought a seed packet that just said husk cherry. There's no difference that I can tell. To me,
they taste the same
flavor wise. Yeah, they taste the same. They grow the same. So there's that. Now those other ones that are like, they say pineapple.
Pineapple, yeah. Because I have seeds, pineapple, but I don't know if it's different. I haven't sold those yet, so I'm not sure.
So next round of seed buying, I'll pick that up and see if that's any different. All right, that is that for what's going on in the garden. Let's check in with the chat and answer today's topic question, which was, is veganism sustainable? Let's see what we have here. So in general, Mike says, meat prices are so high, I'm practically vegan. I hear you. We hear you. Shawnee says, I quit meat for a week, but it wasn't enjoyable. Understood. Mike again, I miss meat, but in the city here, it's garbage quality for crazy prices. Interesting. Cities, depends, I guess, which city. But yeah, they're definitely pricier in cities. But I thought that would mean that they had better quality, but guess not. Going back to your news you can use. What did Shawnee say? She said salmonella and jalapenos. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I heard about that and I wanted to add that and I didn't, but yes, I did. And I was like, wow, I'm glad that I'm growing my own.
Yeah. Right. And then, okay, that's all the answers on the veganism. Let's just look at some other comments here. Precious will take some of that rain too. Awesome.
But she's in
I
California
wish.
too, so she knows. Yeah.
And then what's this one say? You can harvest tomatoes when they're green and sit them in the bowl. Yeah, I know, but I hate to. I want them to be red. And ground cherry looks better than mine are really small. They're one of the bullies. They really take up the space. I have them in, their own pots, and they're huge. And any plant that I might have in there too, either vanished because it was probably taken out because it was weak, or is struggling. So it is a heavy feeder. If it's in the container in the ground, it can, seek out more stuff and share a little bit better. But yeah, they do need a little more help. Oh, here's our answer to is veganism sustainable? She thinks it is sustainable. We will see once we get through our topic. Let's see. This is new. We'll skip that one. I don't know who that is. Oh, let's go back to the ground cherry. Small pot, bigger pot. They will get bigger in a bigger pot for sure.
Well, you know what? I had some in a raised bed, and it was when I had the mini raised beds, like the 2x3 raised beds, and I put the ground cherry in there, but I also put like 3 or 4 other things in there. No, that's not. I think the next time I will grow them in a ground, maybe one of my grow bags, because I do want them in their own separate container because they will spread. This thing spread like all over everywhere. I think I'm going to have it in a grow bag, and then however large it gets, like that's fine as long as I get some ground cherry. So I'm thinking maybe grow bag, because I really want to reserve my kitty raised beds for flowers, like for real,
Yeah.
like this time. So yeah.
All right, let's get to the topic at hand, which is veganism. This is Healy's very excited to do this.
Yes, I am. I am very excited. I'm very excited. You want me to start off with the first little section?
Oh, okay. If you're up for it,
I mean, because it's first. Now this is gonna come more towards like the end of the podcast. Yes, I'm saying podcast. I'm calling it, I'm claiming it podcast. But I just want to say it up here, up front, because with veganism and other like dietary plans or lifestyles or whatever, sometimes it's because of a religious or a spiritual reason, and we're going to touch on that just a little bit. But I want to start with the disclaimers. So veganism and religion, these are disclaimers. This is not a religious podcast. Neither are our individual channels. Not religious podcasts, even though you know my channel. So if you know, you know. But this is not a religious podcast. We are not Bible scholars. This information is provided to share different perspectives on how or why dietary choices and lifestyles may be followed based on religion, because that's the thing, that's real. The commentary on these Bible verses come from internet sources. So this is not what I think. This is not what Joy thinks. We purposely chose commentary from internet sources. They discuss a few of many Bible verses. So if we like tried to state all of the Bible verses, we would be here all night. So we just selected a few Bible verses and provide the commentary on it. Some that may appear to support a vegan diet or vegetarian diet, and then some, maybe not. This is a very limited discussion. Please feel free to read the Bible verses in the context of the topic being discussed in the Bible.
Okay, thank you for that.
Right.
Now, let me just address one of our chatters just to clear things up at the Vegan Anthem. Thank you for your contribution. We respect that. And this, like Healy said, is basically just glossing over. We are not here to support or otherwise. Either way, you do you, and we appreciate your input. All right. So to start off, veganism and its loose definition is renouncing consumption of animal-related product from meat, excuse me, a meat diet, to using meat for clothing, to using meat or animals for entertainment. And it can go far deeper than that, depending on the type of veganism you choose to follow. The shortened history, there were many people involved, long list of history, but my abridged version is that veganism existed long before the term and was coined by the Indus River civilization and the Hindus. At that time, religion seems to be the main driver, possibly dating as far back as 7,000 BCE. I'm not sure. It used to be when I was growing up, it was just BC. I don't remember what the E part is. The Bible, as Healy mentioned, mentions many passages where earlier on, it was a meatless diet was what was supposed to be the diet of the times. We will highlight some passages from Genesis, Romans, and there might be a few more there. And then about 25,000 years ago, there was a shift from religion to ethical and philosophical arguments. Pythagoras, Plato, Aristotle, those are names that you should be familiar with because they're like in your philosophy, math classes and stuff like that. But they were people that practiced or at least taught that veganism, or at least vegetarianism, if not true veganism. And then the current term was coined in 1944 by Dorothy and Donald Watson. And it was mainly to differentiate it from vegetarianism, which does accept consumption of animal byproducts like eggs, milk, honey, and so on and so forth. All right. Where veganism exists mainly, or earlier, early evidence places vegans living in fertile, temperate regions of the world. This means that they had ample space and ability to grow a variety of fruits and vegetables, and therefore they were possibly fulfilling their dietary requirements of the time. Now, as humans, population grew and they spread out, the variety of foods also shifted, and you would see less people consuming specifically just vegetable. And then the influx of spices and the trades and all that helped to flavor those vegetables, and therefore the people who did consume vegetables were enjoying them. The people who couldn't procure the spices, they did not enjoy it as well. Now, with current commerce and trade, the way we have our system today, most humans can enjoy a fully vegan diet. Now, I'm going to break this down as far as areas that are impacted by veganism. First one I'm going to say is the environment. So the main reason people turn to veganism is the protection of animals, followed by health. A vegan anthem mentioned something about it, but I can't find it right now. All right. So turning pastures into vegetable plots reduces the carbon footprint, which I have. Nope, that's the wrong one. I think it's this one. So it's hard to see in the screen and it's hard to read the fine print, but you can get the idea that the top bars, which take up the majority of space here, greenhouse gas emissions from animals, beef, lamb. I can't even read that. Prawns? Meat related are emitting the majority of greenhouse gases. And then as you go down the list, your percentage goes down, down, down. And these are all fruits and vegetables and nuts. All right, let me take that out. Nope. Forgive me. there's only so much like sharing you can do on the screen. Now I have to find the other one,
Mm-hmm.
which is over here. Okay, share that. So here we have land use per, in this case, grams of protein. So as you can see, again, the top 3, 4 are from animals. So they're the ones using up a lot of the soil that could be better allocated, perhaps, to just vegetables. All right, let me get back. And then the current media that we have, and it's, it started farther back, but we now have all these shows and all these documentaries on the treatment of, our food. And
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty terrible for the most part. It's pretty terrible. So this has definitely turned off a lot of people to eating meat and meat related products. Do you remember the name of that movie? It wasn't the first thing that came out, but it was like the biggest one. Had to do with like, they went to the factory farms, and maybe it had
You know what?
McDonald's was
I
part
don't
of it.
remember the name of it, but I do remember the movie because they showed, I think it was called Keiko's or something like that. But anyway, it was where they raised the cows and they have them so crammed and close together. Um, and they just went through the process of like, where does your meat come from? And then I don't know if that's the movie you're talking about, but then there was another one that talked about it compared like for 1 acre, how much vegetables, how much basically non-animal food products you could grow. And then on that same acre, how much animal products you could grow. It was kind of, just presenting both sides,
Mhm.
of the argument. I don't even want to call it an argument because you eat what you choose to eat. Thankfully, we live in a time um, and a location in the United States and a good, at least a part of the Western world,
Mhm.
where we can eat what we want to eat. Um, and I think I'm going to get down to that when we kind of go through the Bible verses. If you want to, eat what you want to eat, and you shouldn't feel any kind of way about it. People shouldn't make you feel any kind of way about what you choose to eat. But I do remember those movies. They are out there, and I think the documentaries might even be on YouTube.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Probably, yeah. Now that we're talking about it, a movie called Food Inc. comes to mind. I think that had a lot of stuff
Oh yeah.
also on showing how animals are being treated for, our consumption. And and thankfully, because of that, there have been changes. We have seen, more pasture raised chickens. No, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been loopholes that those farms have found so that they can continue the 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 budget from not going in the black, or is it the red? They'll keep their profits up.
Hmm.
So, but there is some kind of trying, and things like makeup. We're not using, experimenting on animals nearly as much as we had in the past to
Hmm.
produce makeup. Or I can't say the same for like fashion. I know like leather is still highly used, but fur had a moment there
Hmm.
early in the 90s and 80s where there was a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of, you were painted on or whatever if you were seen wearing um, fur. So there definitely has been movement for better systems.
Hmm.
All right. Another point is that there is a stigma still with being vegan. Not as much if you were vegetarian. While veganism has become more mainstream, there's still a lot of areas of ridicule. It could be a lack of support from your friends and family, not appropriate food offerings at gatherings or eateries. In this case, certain governments, I know Germany is big on it. Um, I'm sure the US is too, that they accommodate for people with diets and it's not just veganism, but lots of diets now are being catered to. So schools, prisons, certain workplaces.
That's true. I
If
mean, even when you take flights and you go on a plane, if
thank you.
you're on a flight that provides a meal, they will ask you and you get a choice.
Hmm.
Based on what's available, you can modify what they provide to help you,
Oh, awesome.
to get
Yeah.
the food, uh whatever your food, preference is.
Hmm.
So I have seen, more truck because you back in the day we used to get on a plane, it was, you had this and this, and they pretty much were the same thing, except maybe one had chips and the other one had an apple with it. And I'm like, oh
Right.
Lord, it's the same. You're giving me the same thing. So,
Exactly.
hmm
So there has been more education there. Now, data shows only about 4% of vegans are in the US, and um, a lot of, like about half of them are of the low income um, spectrum, which
hmm
also calls to mind the classism of veganism, which we'll get to a little bit later on. I'll come back to it. All right. And then a very important idea of veganism is health. Vegans may be at lower risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and other so on and so forth. A major argument against veganism, as far as health is concerned, is that there is an imbalance of certain nutrition, vitamins, and minerals because you're not eating a full diet that you need. Iron, calcium, iodine, B12, those are like the big four of
hmm
items that everybody's yelling about. It's like, you're not getting enough of this or that or whatever. And, they are valid concerns. Um, so because of this, vegans rely heavily on fortified foods to meet this need. And, fortified foods are man-made. And then certain vegans may not understand, especially newer ones, that too, oh, lots of people don't understand is that too much of a good thing is not necessarily good for you. So if you think you need more iron and you, I don't know, binge eat spinach or wherever you get your iron from, you have to balance it out with vitamin C for other than and other things. But vitamin C helps to break down and make iron, bioavailable to you. So a lot of the arguments is that if you're people who aren't educated enough are not getting their full dietary needs because they don't understand this balancing act that has to happen if you're going or if you are vegan. And then women of childbearing age and children, especially, have higher needs as far as these nutrition, vitamins, and minerals, and all these many other things that the body needs. So we really have to be careful when we're pushing to new people these things that we're really researching and making sure they're getting complete diet. All right. So, what can you eat? So, the list is long now, especially that we are in this age, um, where you can get food from anywhere in the world, banning any tariffs or wars or whatnot.
hmm
And also, I hope that the gardening community is making an impact and teaching people to grow their own foods, so they're able to grow these instead of relying, especially with the current news, instead of relying on the markets. So let me pull up the. Let's see how they do that.
While you're doing that, I'll just say this too. So when we have these occurrences, like right now we have the cyclospora, and it is affecting lettuce and fresh produce and vegetables and stuff like that. Sometimes this will encourage people to come into the gardening space because they like vegetables. Maybe they are a vegetarian, they are a vegan, and now it's like their main source of nutrition, their main source of food is compromised, at least
Mhm.
partially. And so this will bring them into the garden space. And in this podcast, in this, live stream, we want to kind of connect, because this is gardening plus, and we want to connect the topic, to gardening. And just with what's going on in the news right now, like we say, since June, with all of this stuff with the cyclospora, it's affecting the vegetables. Like I said, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, this is your main food source. And it's being, first it was reported that it was just lettuce, then it was reported it was other different vegetables and even some berries or fruit. We just got the word that just came out earlier this week about the jalapenos, and stuff like that. So it can, bring more people into the space. And as gardeners ourselves, this would be a time for us, to help educate and support and nurture those new gardeners, coming into the space to basically sustain their health and their lives if they're vegan or vegetarian.
Mhm. All right. I had another slide, but I can't figure out how to pull it up. So we will go with what we have. This is, yeah, since I mentioned this already, these are the foods. I know it's hard to really see, so tiny. All right. So these are certain foods rich in iron, and spinach is at the top, and seaweed.
Mm,
And then your greens that luckily we usually, a lot of us can grow these things.
mm-hmm.
And then closer to the bottom, you have things like olive that can't really readily get. But most of these things, iron, we can grow ourselves. Then you get towards more at the bottom, you get your beans. And some of these beans are lentils. We will be harder pressed to grow ourselves. Now, a great source of calcium. This is not an order of like whatchamacallit, least to greatest. So calcium per gram. So I'm not good at what these mean exactly. So you'll have to excuse me. But per gram, anyway, sesame seeds and seeds itself are at the top. But if you're going for calcium per calories, which makes more sense to me, then you will see that watercress here is 1,000 milligram, and it's very high. So if you can get your hands on watercress, you are very lucky. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
most of us can get it from collard greens, turnip greens. What do we got here? Bok choy. This is a big list. Nope, this is not this big list. But yeah, a lot of these greens, they do intercept each other. And then the last slide here is main source of protein. This is a shorter list. You got seaweed on top, and then you got seeds, nuts. Tempeh is a form of soybean, if I'm not mistaken. So these are the top protein sources for vegans. All right. I really want to add that other. What's this one? Nope, I did that one already.
You're gonna find it. Is we do have a lively chat, and we
Right.
appreciate, everyone's comments and stuff like that. We just want to keep it respectful. We want to keep it welcome to all points of view. We understand that everyone has a different point of view when it comes to veganism or vegetarianism, diet, lifestyle, the choice of words, the definitions. As I mentioned, in the beginning, we are not only are we not Bible scholars, but we are also not dietitians or nutritionists. We are not medical professionals. We are providing this information because we feel that it's relevant to the gardening community, and it's relevant for what's in the news today. So we just, we want to re-emphasize and, and say that again, all points of view and stuff are welcome, but they just need to be kosher. We just we want to keep it 100, and let everybody speak their piece, but just understand everyone has an opinion, everyone has a point of view, everyone has an idea.
Yes. All right. I
Did you
can't find
find
it.
it, Joy?
No. All right. Moving on. I already, mentioned a whole bunch, but aside from vegetables, here are some other, foods for a richer diet. We got legumes like peas, beans, and lentils, bread, rice, and pasta, your vegetable oils, tofu or bean curd, or seitan is another use for it. Tempeh. Oh, tempeh is wheat gluten, not tofu or not soybean, as I thought at first. Plant-based milks like your, what do you got? Cashew, almond,
Almond
coconut,
milk,
yeah,
rice milk.
rice milk. Yep. And then other milk type items are like your yogurt, your mayonnaise, honey, and no, you wouldn't use honey. Why is this on the list? All right.
If you, but see, but that would be the difference between, maybe a vegetarian and a vegan, because a
Right.
vegetarian might use honey,
Yeah.
whereas a vegan would not. A vegan will probably use agave,
Right.
as a sweetener.
And then yeast. Yeast is, free floating in the air and falls outside of the deep vegan philosophy that it's living organisms, I guess. So yeast is okay to consume and also very healthy. So nutritional yeast, that one is pretty easy to find, and that's got a cheesy flavor to it. So that's used in, for pizzas and your salads and everything else. And then this came up, are Oreos vegan? So sometimes is the answer to that, because whatchamacallit, the gel, no, man, I've forgotten. Was it the gelatin or something? No, bone. Oh, here we go. Most cane sugar is made using bone char as a whitening agent. Try to take that in. So very strict vegans do not eat Oreos because of the involvement of the bone char. That's interesting. Bone char is a whitening agent. Like the process that somebody would have to have gone to figure that out. It's like unbelievable. All right, what else we got? So now vegan sources of vitamin D. This is where you have your fortified cereals, your breads, your orange juice, plant milk, vitamin B12, which is very contentious as far as some people believe it's just nonsense that they just made up so that you take more supplements. But it's in cereals. It has to be fortified. You can't get B12 outside of meat, is my current understanding. But certain things have a little bit of it, like your cereals, your milks, meat substitutes, which means, it's being man-made, and nutritional yeast. And also to seaweed, which I mentioned before. I think seaweed should be on that list. What else? Omega-3 fatty acids is another one that's important. And you can get those mostly from your nuts, seeds, hemp seed, chia seeds, seaweed, and algae. There you go. Now, the question of the day is veganism sustainable? Now, in my opinion, like Precious said earlier that she believed that it was, but that's gotten buried. Now, yes, there it is. Yes, I think it is sustainable. So there's no empirical evidence that vegan diet leads to a longer life. And if it does, then it's usually because of the lifestyle as a whole. Like vegans are less likely to drink much, smoke much, eat excessive junk food, unless you're the part of the group that's not that knowledgeable about it. And then those people tend to eat heavily processed foods.
Yeah.
Do eat a lot of things with sweets because they're trying to fill that protein hunger that their body's craving. And usually sweet things give you that for a short amount of time. And then a lot of food, you need a lot of fortification, a lot of human intervention has to come in order for you to have a full diet. Now, in my opinion, veganism is sustainable as long as we have the current state of commerce and trade that we have, where different countries all over the world are sharing openly. But, if there was anything to happen to that, then you won't be able to get a proper diet, a complete diet. And then the space, with human population consistently growing, where are we planting the food? Because we're taking up the space. There is, I must have skipped something, but the alternative would be, if we're no longer farming animals as we do in the scale we do, then the lands that they now occupy will be replaced by vegetables. Oh yeah, I did mention this in the beginning. Will be replaced by vegetables, and that is where we would be able to continue that. But then you're still limited by where in the planet you are. The middle area of the world can grow, a vast majority of fruits and vegetables, but northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, you're a little more limited in the time of year of what's growing there. So you're not always going to get all these cooler crop weather greens in the summer areas, like Florida, let's say. You're not going to be able to grow your spinach, broccolis. They are working very diligently on hybridizing a lot of foods so that, you have a version of spinach that you can grow in the heat, or maybe broccoli or something. But yeah, there's still a lot of human intervention that needs to happen for us to be able to grow all these foods. And like root vegetables, yucca, other than potatoes, like sweet potatoes, yams. You can only, so you got potatoes in the cooler places, and then you got those more dense, I think, root vegetables in the southern places. So you can only, you have to plan your meal basically very much around what you have available. And then there's the preservation of foods, which we as gardeners are familiar with, that if we want to be sustained with our summer harvest through the winter months until we can plant again in the spring, then we have to know how to preserve and store our food. And not everybody has the knowledge, the equipment, the space to store their foods. So there's not going to be necessarily an easy way for people to do that. You would need electricity. Lots of places in the world still, don't have electricity like on a current constant basis. You have lots of countries that they have it for a short while, and then there's blackouts, constantly, not just because something error happened, there was a weather or something tripped. The government purposely shuts down their power for, much of time, a considerable amount of time, so that they're not able to refrigerate their foods. You would need those larger pots. You would need the cans and the lids, and you're always having to rebuy the lids because you can't reuse those.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, space. Like if you live in a tiny apartment, where are you going to put that food that you're trying to save? So, in my
opinion, under the
bed, sleep on it,
in the top of the closet.
Yeah. But like this, and that's just maybe for one person. What if you're a big family? There's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just making excuses, because people are resilient and they'll make it work if they need to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where there's a will, there's a way. Depending on your environment and what you have available to you, you will make it work. I don't think anyone would purposely go without food and water. I think where there's a will, there's a way. And what they say, invention and creativity are bred out of necessity.
Mm.
or something like that. Maybe it's just invention is bred from necessity or something like that. I do think people will find a way, but like you said, you have to work, and Precious said this too. You have to work within your means, what's available to you at the time. Like you said, Joy, if you live in a small apartment and it's 4 or 5 people, even if you have all of the equipment to can and jar the food that you're producing, maybe on your patio or your porch. Maybe you have some green stalks or something where you can do vertical gardening or whatever, but or just purchasing from the store. At some point, you're going to need to store the food during the time that is not grown or that is not available, or if the grocery store goes low on stock, or if the power goes out or whatever, you need somewhere to store the food. And storing food for one person is a lot different than storing food for a family of 3, 4, 5 or more people. So,
Bittersweet brought up a point. Fruits and vegetables have less nutrients than those from many years ago because of crossbreeding. That's a point. I'm not sure if it's, super true. I feel like maybe the nutrients is lost more because the earth is no longer as fertile. That it's being depleted and not fed back. But yeah, that's an argument, I think, that scientists would say that that's not the case, but I don't know for sure. All right, who else do we have with a different point of view? All right, let's finish up with the thing that Healy dreaded. So for us in the Western world, Christians, Catholics, we prescribe to the Bible. And so in the beginning, there was
yeah.
there were these words. Give us a few passages that you feel that in the early days that promoted veganism, basically.
Okay. So I want to refer you to the disclaimer that we stated in the beginning of the podcast, the live stream. And with that, I'm going to read this commentary. Again, this commentary is not from me. This commentary is not from Joy. This commentary is from online sources. So this is not my opinion. This is not Joy's opinion. And I'm not saying that because I feel like I need to, protect myself or whatever. But if you have an axe to grind with the words I'm about to speak, I'm going to just refer you to the reference, and they will be in the description of the live stream as soon as YouTube allows us to, add that information. So the commentary reads, the Bible doesn't specifically mandate dietary choices, but offers guidance on gratitude and care for creation. While some scriptures highlight plant-based eating, others show God's provision of animals for food. A vegan lifestyle can honor God's creation, but scripture reminds us to focus on faith and respect in our dietary decisions. And again, I am only familiar with the Holy Bible, and that's why I'm reading these verses. Yes, I am aware there are other religions, there are other religious texts, but I am not familiar with those, so I can only read from what I am familiar with. Now, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, this says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. This verse highlights God's original design for humanity to consume plant-based foods. It emphasizes the provision of nourishment from the fruits of the earth, showcasing the compatibility of a vegan lifestyle with God's intentions. Again, besides the Bible verse, what I just read to you is the commentary. So this is this person's take on what Genesis chapter 1, verse 29 says. I highly, highly recommend that you read a couple of verses before and a couple of verses after. Just taking one Bible verse, I believe in context, but that was Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. Now, Genesis chapter 9, verse 3 says, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. The commentator says, critics may argue that this verse permits the consumption of meat. However, it is important to study the context of this command. After the flood, God granted Noah and his descendants permission to eat meat due to the destruction of vegetation caused by the flood. While this verse may indicate a temporary provision, subsequent scriptural passages emphasize the original plant-based diet in the beginning as seen in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. So these are some Old Testament verses. I also just pull some New Testament verses. Now, both of these are from Romans chapter 14. The first is verse 6. It says, he that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, he eateth not, and giveth God thanks. Now, Romans chapter 14, verse 17 says, for the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost. Now, here is the commentation on that. Some individuals may choose not to eat meat for reasons other than biblical teachings, such as personal convictions or dietary restrictions. In certain cases, people choose vegetarianism or veganism because of reports about how animals are raised and handled in the food industry. Because God did give us dominion over all the earth, that's Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, which is why I say you should read a couple of verses above, a couple of verses below. As part of this responsibility, he expects us to be accountable for the way we treat his creation. The key principle emphasized in this passage is to not judge or look down on others based on their dietary choices. Unfortunately, many animal advocacy groups don't acknowledge that animal life should not be given priority over human life. Man alone has been made in the image of God. That's Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Because of that, denying starving people of food to protect the rights of birds and beasts is, and this is from the commentator, it is wicked and foolish. Ultimately, the Bible does not explicitly forbid the consumption of meat. However, it does encourage individuals to be mindful of their choices and considerate of others when it comes to matters of food and diet. Now, I saw the chat like just going and going and going, and we do appreciate that. But these are some biblical or maybe spiritual points of view that some people, say, okay, well, this is why I choose not to eat meat. But even in the commentary, the person noted that some people choose not to eat meat not because of religion or religion alone, but it's because of personal conviction. And that's fine too. Like I said in the beginning, thankfully, we live in a time and we live in a region, I'm say the Western Hemisphere, we're in the United States. If you are visiting us from an area outside of the West, what we call it, then maybe your circumstance is different. But here in the United States, we live in an area where all types of food is available to us. Natural food, organic food, synthetic food, completely trash stuff that should not even be considered food. It is all available for us to make the decision for ourselves and for our, underage or young ones, what to eat or not to eat. But I do agree with the Bible when it says that we should not judge others for what they choose to eat or not choose to eat, because God has blessed all the things.
Right.
Amen.
Amen. Now, I'm not a very religious person. I used to be, I grew up, with it as my foundation. So that was good. But currently, it's not so much God in itself, but the whole religion aspect of those types of communities I am not fond of, or their ways of doing things and how they go about things. But anyway,
Mhm.
my one thing I took away from many passages I saw, like let's say Genesis first. One of them said or alluded to that animals back then in the beginning did not consume each other. They consumed also the grass of the earth and whatnot. So I'm
That was in
assuming,
Isaiah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming it was during after the flood, as you mentioned, that it is that because there were no longer so much greenery around, then that's when the flip came that animals then started also consuming other animals. Um, but that doesn't explain the sea creatures because they never ran out of food for themselves. So if the sea creatures still consume the sea creatures,
Mhm.
that idea falls apart for me. And then, um, what was it? On another on a tangent, I spoke about classism. The vegan. Whenever something becomes a buzzword, it usually it becomes exclusionary.
Mm.
So to me, when even when if it was vegetarian before vegans, it's like this was a group that had to exclude itself from them because they were no longer better. That now we are better. So statistics show that vegans typically from from lower income like groups, which is odd because vegetable, to be vegan seems like a very expensive proposition. So I didn't understand that statistic, but yeah, my point is that I think at this point now, I think you have to be a certain higher end of the echelon of the economic of finance means
Mhm.
to be fully healthy as a vegan. And then those that are on the other opposite end are not having a full diet, a healthy diet. And let's take iodine. I remember this from my childhood because I saw it on a news program or something. And I remember people with that lacked iodine, which is certain types of salt, they didn't have it, so they would grow goiter, I believe the word is, where the neck would swell.
Mhm.
So they were in that part of the world where that kind of salt was not available to them. And so, that and other health related things, anomalies would be happening to them. Um, and then I remember as a child myself, we were poor and I was not getting all my vitamins and minerals for sure. Some days I would be eating like rice with coffee or rice and banana. That would be like my meal. Um, and there were days where I would be out in the the yard and stuff, and I would pick a certain type of rock and I would like suck on that rock because that rock like held minerals that my body knew
Minerals.
was there. And I've seen it since, like in my teenage years,
Mhm.
in another documentary, that there are areas, pockets of the world where they do mine specific kinds of rocks that they consume, or it's like a clay, I guess, so that they
Mhm.
consume that mineral because they are lacking that in any other foods that they're consuming. So to be vegan, and then there's the raw vegans who only eat, I think it's called raw vegan. They
It
don't
is, yeah,
eat
raw vegan.
they don't eat root vegetables because they feel that to disturb that the soil is to disturb the organisms under the soil or in the soil, and therefore that is another idea that they're hurting, some animal sentient being. So they're only eating vegetables, leafy vegetables, and fruits. So for the most part, when you see people like that, they do not look healthy. All right, that is my take on that. Now I wish I could go to the chat and pick out the comments that I'm looking for, but there's just so much of it that I can't process
Well,
what I
you
want
know
to
what?
highlight.
Yeah, Joy. Well, while you looking through the comments, if you choose to pick a few out, I just want to thank you for sharing that part of your life with us tonight,
Okay.
because that's is personal, or it can be. And for you to share aspects of your childhood, and talking about your nutrition and everything like that, it can be a very personal thing. So, and even if you don't think so, I still want to thank you and acknowledge that personal contribution to this live stream, because sometimes even when you want to share something that's a bit more personal or intimate, to connect with the topic and to connect with the chat, connect with the viewers, it is very easy in this age of social media and keyboard warriors for people to just take advantage of, like, your personal life. Like, we're on here online, and yes, that does open us up to a level of scrutiny, but we are people, and we are humans too. So that is a moment of vulnerability that we just taking that moment to share. I will say this: the body knows what it needs. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you found those rocks, and you lick those rocks for the minerals and probably for the salt, it's because your body knew what it needed, and somehow your brain knew in your environment it was the rock that had that nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we suffer greatly from in the West is having too many things that are labeled as food that provide zero nutrition. And the body knows. So you eat the chips and the ice cream and the street hot dog and the bag of this and the box of that, and you eat, 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 and you're still hungry.
Right.
It is your body telling you, yes, you give me all this stuff, this whatever this is, but I have processed little to no nutrition, so I need more. And instead of us picking up on the clue to not continue eating the bag of chips and the pies and the cakes and the this and the that, I'm talking about on a consistent, regular basis, we continue to do that and still not feed our bodies nutrition. Vegans and vegetarians do have to be aware of the nutrition deficiencies in the food items they eat. And you mentioned it before, like with the B12 and the calcium and the this and the that. Thankfully, again, we live in a time and we live in a place where there are fortified foods, like you mentioned. Then the cereals and the grains, in the food items, they are fortified with those vitamins and nutritions and stuff. But again, that is synthetic and it is man-made. Um, I am not a vegan. I am not a vegetarian, but I do like vegetables. I mean, my goodness, I'm a gardener.
That's
I
right.
grow I grow vegetables. I eat lots of them, but I do not get my full complement of nutrition from vegetables. But that is what I choose to do. And it's okay, because I promise you, what I do to my body, what I put in my body should not affect, the person next to me health. unless some kind of way, I don't know, they snatching the food out of my mouth and putting it in their mouth, you know. There was a saying when I was growing up, it was called to each his own. As long as you are not contributing to the detriment, you know, of your fellow neighbor. If one person choose to be vegan, one person choose to be vegetarian, one person choose to eat a varied diet, if somebody choose to be keto or carnivore, as long as I'm not disturbing your being, um, I'm not even gonna say we have to accept, because you don't have to accept. You don't have to accept. People's is kind, you know, for you to, oh, I'll just accept. I said you don't have to accept. But what I would say is you should not disturb. You should not you know, degrade or interfere with somebody else's choices or decisions, you know, of what they want to do. And what about people who they start off vegan or vegetarian and then they decide to start eating meat? Or people who eat meat and then they say, oh no, I want to be vegetarian or vegan, or even further, raw vegan. Raw vegan is more restrictive than vegan. Vegan is more restrictive than vegetarian. Carnivore is more restrictive than keto. There's so many different ways for us to provide nutrition to our bodies. Let's let us and others have that choice without feeling like we've done something wrong or we're a horrible person. You know, because I'm about to eat some fish as soon as we finish this live stream. You know what I'm saying? Catfish for real, in butter with salt and pepper. And I'm going to enjoy every drop of it. And I will not be swayed by anything spoken tonight. But on the same hand, if Joy or anybody else in this chat, they getting ready to, you know, enjoy the juiciest, most just whatever, like eggplant that you have ever seen in your life, stuffed with vegetables and herbs, I say have at it and save me a piece.
All right. I know we're getting long winded here, but I just wanted to pick a few points here.
Hmm.
There was a little bit of an argument about how would you like it if, you know, if you knew that let's say the animals, if they were sentient, they were speaking about you as if you were a meal. I'm pretty sure they do. And like, if you were in the Sahara or in the middle of the woods in Canada, I'm pretty sure the animals are saying, that looks good. That looks delicious. I want that.
Hmm.
So animals in their current state are no less hindered by the idea of eating us and using us for their dietary consumption. And then on the opposite spectrum of that, if like humans have a way of wanting to play God, let's say, and human cloning has always been, you know, dripped from the ethers as something that could be possible for us in the future so that we can use them for our health to you know, if we need a liver transplant, blood transfusion, heart transplants, brain, whatever.
Hmm.
So there is that in humanity that says, I will take a piece of myself and make it whole and then take its life so that I, the current me, can continue on for as long as I can possibly.
Hmm.
Um, so that was that part. And then Mike was saying something here about, you know, on any topic, you will always have an
That's right.
argument against or for. So he's saying he can preach organic gardening, but use plastic. So now all of a sudden his whole argument's out the window. Or if he uses wood,
Hmm.
now he's part of the deforestation crowd. So you can never win at everything. All we do is the best we can with what we have at this time of our lives. And that's just important to remember. And a lot of the times, the people who are trying to steer us in possibly, the better way, perhaps veganism in this case is the way. But a lot of the times, the people who are doing that are going about it like in such an abrasive way that it, makes us step back and say, whoa, if this is the type of person I will be turning into if I go that direction, then I don't want any part of it. So, and usually it's like bad influencers, I guess, because they're the ones that get pushed forth, the loudest, and the ones that are going to get the clicks. And the loudest people are the people you don't want to follow. So keep that in mind when you're trying to influence people, that you need to do it from a place of grace and understanding and slow drips of information, and not, attack kind of thing.
I know. I'm gonna just say that. I'm gonna just say this last thing. You heard the joke about vegetables being carnivores, right? You heard that joke? So
No, I
basically,
understand
the
it.
joke goes that so when animals die, bugs, creatures,
Right.
cows, whatever, they break down and deteriorate into the soil. Well, the plants take that nutrition
Right.
and they grow and they produce the fruits, the vegetables, the herb. So, now are vegetables, the bad guy? I mean, when we fertilize, when we fertilize our garden, some people use chicken manure, horse manure, whatever, this and that. But even out in nature, when animals and stuff die, the organisms and everything break them down, their bodies go into the soil, and plants grow up from that. It's just a joke, y'all. I'm not trying to start nothing else, but I'm just saying it's a thought. It's a thought. So now what do we think about vegetables? What's the deal now?
Right.
I eat vegetables, I eat meat, I eat fish, I eat, eggs, milk and cheese, all of that kind of stuff. You know, Sometimes one group of food more than the other. I just try to eat whole foods, like the less refined, the less processed whole foods, whatever that may be, whatever of my choosing. And I thank God that I have that choice.
All right. One more little funny thing. If God forbid Audrey 2 from the Little Shop of Horrors was real, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Feed me, Seymour.
That's right. All right. And with that, let's close off this chat. As a reminder, Gardening Plus podcast is normally live streamed at 2-week intervals and alternate between our two channels here on YouTube. Sometimes we mix it up, so subscribe to @Healy and myself. I should be scrolling this information. Tisk tisk. All right, here's Healy's information. If you have any ideas for future topics, put them in the chat or the comments. We may not be experts, but we can be persuaded to talk about almost anything relating to gardening. All right.
My YouTube. I was gonna go, yeah. So my YouTube channel @HealyMeans. I'm only on YouTube. I'm not on any other platform at the moment, but I'm thinking about it. But my channel is multi-topic content based. It started out with natural hair content, but it has expanded to product reviews, hauls and unboxings, vlogs in a car, and of course, gardening. So if you like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, check out my channel.
All right. My content focuses on gardening vlogs, and I might sprinkle a few travel videos. I know I have one coming up for you. Some cooking, some unboxing. I should be continuing this, but I do have a segment on, or a series on, resilience in the garden, where I interview people who have used gardening to lighten their spirit and help them through what they're going through. These videos are sporadic, and especially with gardeners, we have busy periods. So I wait, whether it's early spring or late fall, I wait till then to gather that. So stay on the lookout. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my episodes. Today's show covered the very what's the word? dramatic topic of veganism. We're not pushing either agenda. We feel that you have to do what's best for you and your body and your loved ones. So remember to eat what you like, grow your food, and we will talk to you all again soon. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I know it was tough, but we appreciate you. Please come back. All right. Talk to y'all again soon.
Definitely.
So I'll harvest more. Your turn.
And until next time, be safe, be